Hey, what's that over there?
I think it's the River City Rebels.
Welcome to the RCR show, episode number 1. I'm Dan, aka Bopper, aka Asshole. This show is going to be looking back on the history of RCR, talking about the future of RCR. We're going to profile old members, we're going to profile new members. We're going to see where, some of these old past members, what they're up to right now, how they're doing. We're going to hear demos that have never been heard. We're going to see some live performance stuff. We're going to break down albums. We're going to have a lot of fun over here. But the first key to this whole thing is we're going to need your help. We're going to need questions from you guys because, this is what it's all about, interacting with you guys, the fans out there that have been following us for the last 20 years. So I thought this week, since it's the launch episode, we didn't ask you guys to send questions in. I just made a question up for Chris J, CJ Baggs, because he used to do a lot of driving. And you want to see the kind of music that Chris J was listening to? Let's shoot it to Chris right now. CJ!
Since you did a ton of driving on tour, what were your go-to albums behind the wheel? And so I was in the band from 99 to 2004, and then a little bit later on too, but I was actually having trouble remembering what CDs I would have listened to back then, so I went through my old collection of super scratched up, it's a big bin of super scratched CDs, because I was thinking the obvious, The Clash, The Ramones, Rolling Stones, David Bowie, but that's not what I found. The first one I found was an old Rocket from the Crypt album. This wouldn't have been the one I was listening to when we were driving. It would have been RFTC or Scream Dracula Scream. And that was a great band for us to listen to because they also had horns, as we had horns. And the horns were actually part of the band instead of being a couple guys that stood in the back of the band. So that was a big band at that time period. And then two of the other ones I found that I was listening to a lot when I was driving, Otis Redding, Sam and Dave, because I was really big on the Stax, and I was reading an Otis biography at the time, especially around Hate to Be Loved, and I was learning the bass lines because they're such good bass lines and great horn lines. And after a lot of shows, you don't necessarily want to listen to more punk bands because you've already listened to yourself and 4 other bands. And then the last one I found was a band that was very near and dear. I haven't listened to them in 15 years or so, but it was the Muffs. One of the best, somewhere between rock and roll and that sort of 90s pop punk sound. This is Alert Today, Alive Tomorrow, but Blonder and Blonder was even probably the best of those albums. And I really loved listening to Kim Shattuck's voice because it was sweet, but it was also ripping sounding like. So that's it. Those are the albums I brought from my super scratched record collection. I'm sure none of these still play.
It's funny, I remember Chris J having all those loose CDs, because we had a communal book back then. You just, you slide your CDs, but Chris was the only one that would actually write his name on his CDs. Kind of funny, because I think I still have a few of his. Somehow they made it out of the book, if you know what I mean. So we've been locked up in the basement working on some brand new material. Quite excited about this. Really excited about this, actually. These songs are some of the strongest, I think, in our whole catalog. Bringing it right back, taken from that early 80s hardcore vibe all the way to, a late 80s, early 90s Minnesota sound. So we got all kinds of goodness going on in these new tunes. And the hope still is, come fall, we're gonna lay these down. Right now we're looking for a record label, someone that's gonna, get the name back out there for us, help us on that end, and also maybe even throw down some money for some vinyl, which would be nice. But, either way, it's going to happen. We're hopeful. Everything's going as planned. First show back, it looks like July 12th is the launch date. We're not sure if we're going to try to play Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, or if we're just going to do it in White River Junction, Vermont. It's a toss-up. So, I guess we'll keep you posted as we hear. Let's do a Rebels Rewind right now. I want to profile a former member in Tasker Wise. He was the bass player on In Love Loveless, which was one of our later records. And he also toured with us in the support of Keepsake of Luck. So, love Tasker. Great bass player, great dude. He was one of those guys that you always wanted around because the conversations were always really, really good. And good sense of humor. Liked to fucking party. And it was the kind of dude you wanted around. If you were getting in a fight, he was going to hop in there and get your back for you. So we're gonna bring it back here. I think back in 2014, yes, we did this big RCR reunion. And Nick Grandchamp was there the whole time with his podcast recording these interviews. So we're going to use these through the episodes and kind of profile some of these old members. Nick asked Tasker how he got into music and how did he connect with RCR.
Yeah, I grew up really getting into music from my dad. He played a little bit of bass but wasn't really a musician, but is a huge music fan. And, he was very diverse, like, very eclectic musical tastes. So, I had everything from new wave and rock and roll to, like, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and all that stuff. And the one thing he wasn't super into is punk, but my uncle was. So I kind of got some punk tapes from my uncle. And my dad ended up giving me his Buzzcocks and Dead Kennedys tapes.
Oh, nice.
And so I played those things out, and I ended up in, like a high school kind of hardcore punk rock band. And we ended up opening up for the River City Rebels, and all I heard was maybe 2 or 3 tracks at that point. And so we play our show, and it was on the tour they did with Seven Shot Screamers.
Oh, cool.
And, I was kind of into, like, rockabilly and stuff at that point. And so I was already impressed with Seven Shot Screamers, and as soon as the Rebels started, it was like they opened with Hurt Like I Do. And Jake, I remember Jungle Face Jake had his back to the crowd until they kicked into the full, like, swinging part of the tune. And when Jake swung around, his face was just fucking, like, there was so much ferocity on it. And I think they had 8 people on stage at that point because Dottie was with them. And I'd never seen anything like that. It was like the next, like, 3 or 4 months going back to playing in my band that I was in at the time was like, man, I don't want to do this. I want to be in the River City Rebels.
You grew up about like 50.
Where is Tasker now? Well, Tasker is back in Washington State. He's married, which he met his wife while he was on tour with RCR, which is pretty awesome. And he's a tattoo artist, phenomenal tattoo artist actually. It's a shame. I wish he was tattooing when he was in the band because, well, I guess I already filled up my space, but I would have found some more for him to do. And hopefully one day I can get out there and get some work done by him. He's also in a band. He's been in a few bands since RCR. I'm not sure what the current project is right now, but I certainly will ask him so we can put a little sample in here somewhere. And Tasker was talking about the song Hurt Like I Do, which is a song we used to open up with. It was the opener on the Hate to Be Loved album, and it was also the song that for a while, that year and a half that we were promoting that album would be the opener. We stopped doing that after a while. The song absolutely destroys my throat, so I pretty much dropped out of rotation for a long time. The last time it was played was back in 2009 when RCR went to Europe to tour for the first time. Here's a clip of the last time we played that song, and it was an encore in Belgium. Hurt Like I Do, live in Belgium.
Tout casser, quoi. On casse l'entrepôt ce soir. Harlem. Ouais, ça va être...
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this first episode. We're going to be bringing on guests in the future. So I'm going to be reaching out to all my old punk rocker friends, and they're going to share some stories with you guys. We're going to answer all the questions that you want. So make sure to send them our way in the comments or on Facebook. Just drop them anywhere. I'll find them. We'll answer them. And like I said, stay tuned. Show announcements coming soon. We're only playing 3 or 4 times this summer, so we're going to let you guys know as soon as those are confirmed. And I'll keep you posted on the whole writing process, but things are going really well. Until next time, guys, this is going to be twice a month, hopefully all goes well. So we'll see you guys in a few weeks.
Hey, what's that over there? I think it's the River City Rebels.